practice at a 38% profit margin is significantly healthier and far more scalable than a $3 million practice that is running at a 12% profit margin. So the goal is not just to grow. The goal is to keep more of what you're already earning and stretch out the revenue that's already coming in. And it starts with owning your role. Too many med spa owners are stuck working in the business instead of on it. You are solving problems, putting out fires, and manually managing the machine. Here's the truth. Multi-million-dollar CEOs, they don't work in the practice. They are building the practice that functions and flourishes without them at the center. You need to reframe your mindset. You're not here to babysit your business. You're here to lead it. So let's take a moment to evaluate what that looks like. I want you to pull out a sheet of paper and write down, how are you spending your time? Are you doing tasks like confirming appointments because you see they haven't been confirmed yet? Are you ordering inventory because you want to keep it close? Are you fixing your team's mistakes? Are you training new hires? Are you managing the schedule, answering, rep phone calls? If so, you are working in the business, and that needs to change immediately. Now, what does it look like to work on the business? You are focusing on what I like to call $1,000 an hour decisions by doing things like growth strategy, pricing structure, team accountability, and forecasting. Or even better, do you have a rock star practice manager who's coming to you proactively and giving you balcony level updates while you make high level decisions for them to execute? That one mindset shift alone from working on the business and not in the business is what separates multi-million-dollar practices from practices that are just getting by. You need to own your role as a CEO. And by doing this one mindset shift, you can 10x your profitability and create space for real wealth. You do not scale from your services. You scale from your systems. Your operations are your most underutilized revenue stream. I want to say that again. Your operations are your most underutilized revenue stream. Operational efficiency is your silent profit engine. Let's take a deeper look here. Labor margin awareness. Your labor should stay under 30% of your gross revenue. If you're over that, it's likely that your pricing is too low or your schedule isn't optimized for capacity and productivity. Let's look at lead time. Call answer rates. Your call answer rate should sit at 90% or above. They need to be responded to, answered immediately. Leads should be contacted within 30 seconds to 5 minutes at max. Practices lose about 10 to 15% of potential new revenue through these missed calls and missed lead opportunity. That is $50,000 a month in lost opportunity. Let's look at inventory turns and vendor terms. Inventory should turn over every 30 to 60 days. If you are sitting on product, you are sitting on cash. I want you to negotiate for quarterly rebates, free product credits, or better payment terms. Most vendors and most reps out there have programs that you might not even be aware of or not taking advantage of. I also want you to automate what does not require you. So I want you to use softwares to handle rebooking prompts, post-visit follow-ups, inventory counts, and even lead nurturing. You need to remove yourself as the bottleneck of every decision and start working on the business. That mindset shift is vital, and it starts there. Once you make that shift, I want you to diversify your revenue streams. The most profitable med spas, they don't rely on only one source of income. We're seeing this with the GLP-1s and the wellness clinics where they're panicking with the changes right now. Profitable med spas create reoccurring and reliable revenue. Reoccurring revenue is reoccurring freedom. High-performing practices have at least 15 to 25% of their monthly income coming from memberships. 15 to 25% of reoccurring revenue and that reoccurring freedom is coming through memberships. I also want you to take into consideration how successful are my events. If we're talking about diversifying our revenue streams, let's look at events as revenue streams. How successful are my events? I want you to create event models that convert. I want you to ditch the Botox and bubbly events. They have no ROI. I want you to create events that sell before they even happen. We do that by collecting deposits, doing VIP pre-sales, and creating a sense of urgency. I have a client who just last month, we generated $175,000 in 4 hours, and that was done with only 40 RSVPs. We designed their event to convert. So I want to see you do the same thing. And I promise you, you're not going to get there with Botox and Bubbly. That ROI is not there. So we're looking at events. We're looking at diversifying our revenue streams. What is a revenue stream that I think a lot of people think is not as large as others? And that is retail. Retail matters so much. Your retail should account for at least 10 to 15% of your total revenue. Almost every practice that I work with offers retail, but very few train their teams efficiently on how to actually sell this retail. If your team is not prescribing this medical grade skincare, they are not advising their patients to protect the results that you've just delivered to them, and you are doing your patients a major disservice, and you will see it in your revenue. So again, your retail should account for 10 to 15% of your total revenue. So talking about teams and maybe under-trained teams or teams that are not trained to sell, your team's performance equals your revenue acceleration. The right team does not just support your business, they're going to scale it. Your compensation model should motivate performance without bleeding your margin. So you don't want to give away too much than you can afford. Multi-million-dollar med spas are building teams around KPIs. And I do this every single week with my clients. Every month, we're diving into their KPIs. So these multi-million-dollar practices are analyzing their KPIs daily, weekly, and monthly. What are some key metrics that we need you to take a look into? One is conversion rate. One is rebooking rate, utilization rate. That one's huge. Revenue per patient, total revenue, service revenue, and more. If you are not identifying and looking into your metrics matter. You are making a huge, huge mistake. This is what these multi-million-dollar med spas are doing. They're auditing performance. Your team's performance is directly in relation to your revenue acceleration. If you are not checking them daily, weekly, monthly, these KPIs, data delayed is revenue denied. You don't want to wait to correct an issue before it's too late. Stay on top of it. Better yet, have your manager stay on top of it so that way you're not working in the business. You need to have a high-performing manager who is staying on top of these metrics. Let's get further into data a little bit. So you'll hear me say this a lot, especially if you're a client of mine, financial health and forecasting. Profit is not something that happens at the end of the year. It's engineered monthly. If you are looking at a P&L only at the end of the year, that's delayed profit and delayed revenue. We need to get ahead of it. I want you to keep in mind the 10, 20, and 70 framework. 10, 20, and 70 framework. Keep 10% of your revenue for profit. Set aside 20% for taxes and operate the business on 70%. This one discipline, using the 10, 20, 70 method, that one discipline creates freedom instead of financial firefighting all the time and grabbing and doing these discounts and underselling. That one discipline with the 10, 20, 70 is going to create financial freedom instead of putting out fires. We talked a lot about not waiting until the end of the year to do a P&L review. Do not wait until the end of the year to assess your performance, review your labor, your cost of goods, your memberships, your treatment margins. Those should be done monthly. Know what is working and fix what's not before it compounds and adds up. This is a big one. This next one is a big one. I talk to a lot of my clients about this who are in the position to do this. Keep a cash cushion. A cash cushion equals stress insurance. I need you to keep 3 months of fixed expenses in reserve. And remember, reinvest in your people and not just your technology. We all love the newest and greatest technology, but one thing that we know about aesthetics is there's something new coming out every single day. We want to reinvest in your people that can sell and not just your technology. I promise you, a well-trained provider will outperform your newest $120,000 laser 100% of the time. You are not going to scale by accident. This does not just fall on your lap. You have to scale with clarity, precision, and structure. And doing financial health checks is the best way to have that clarity in every decision you make, precision, and structure. So here are your next action steps. If you are not doing them already, I need you to audit your pricing and plug any margin leaks that you have. I need you to run your P&L every single month and get a clear grasp on where your profit could be hiding. I need you to do weekly KPI reviews with your team. I need you to choose one revenue stream that you don't already have right now and build it. So if you don't have a membership that's creating passive revenue for you, I need you to build that revenue stream. If there's a new division of your practice that you don't currently have, whether it's wellness, whatever that looks like, figure out a new revenue stream. You hear me talk about these proprietary methods all the time. A revenue stream that I'm seeing more and more is trademarking that and having that be a revenue stream. Or if you are a very advanced skilled injector, a great revenue stream that I'm working on with a lot of my clients is opening up a training program. Let's start training these new injectors, and that's a beautiful revenue stream that's predictable. Most importantly, I need you to stop being the operator. If you are the practice owner, stop being the practice operator as well. And I need you to start being the architect of your practice, because ultimately the business that you are building right now, it's meant to make you money even when you're not in the room, and better yet, when you're not even in the country. Go take a vacation, but we cannot get there without systems and protocols and SOPs first. So this business that you are nurturing every day is meant to be giving you financial freedom. So if you think that you cannot take a vacation and your revenue is going to come to a screeching halt, you are the bottleneck in your business. You should be working on the business, not in the business. You should be able to leave. If not, you do not have the right systems, team in place, SOPs to get you there. This is what profit first and the hidden numbers behind a multi-million-dollar med spa is all about. It's stepping beyond the surface of revenue and unlocking the real levers of growth and consistency and ultimately financial freedom. I want to give you just one example of how I know that this framework works. I do this every single day with my clients, and I'm going to give you one example of how this exact framework has worked for just one of my clients this month. I did a P&L review and I saved my client $52,000 in unnecessary expenses. We then looked at her upcoming inventory order and trimmed that back by $12,000 of stuff that she does not need in the next 30 or 60 days. Because remember, we talked about how your inventory should be turning over every 30 and 60 days. What she was planning to order was going to sit there and at worst expire. So we did her P&L review and I saved her $52,000. We trimmed her upcoming inventory order and I saved her $12,000. So by, again, identifying unnecessary spend and ordering. Then we did a KPI analysis and we took that KPI analysis and identified that her injector was severely underperforming, especially her utilization was 95%. She is booked, but her revenue per hour and her revenue per patient and her total revenue was severely underperforming in injectable sales. So by doing those three things, reviewing her P&L, reviewing her upcoming inventory order, and reviewing her KPIs, by doing those major financial health checks, with that alone, I gave her back $64,000 of her already earned revenue by making her more profitable by not having to increase any overhead. So she's already earned that revenue, but she was going to spend it. It was going to be unnecessarily spent by expenses that do not matter. So now she gets to keep $64,000 of what she had already made. And we didn't need to increase overhead or do anything crazy for her to get an additional almost $70K. We took a very, very small portion of that $64,000 and we invested in advanced training for her injector. I also did a consultation and sales training with that injector. So that training, that advanced training alone that injector is going to go through is going to bring her this new revenue that we also want. And we did not spend a dime out of her pocket, out of any loans that she had. We identified existing revenue to pull from and a significant portion that's left over of that she gets to keep. She gets to keep more of the money that she's already made. So remember, a multi-million-dollar med spa is stretching and keeping more of what they have already earned to get there. And without these financial health checks, it's impossible for you to do that. I like to say, like, money is being flushed down the toilet. If you're not doing these financial health checks, you could be keeping, like this example that I gave you, up to $6 every single month. Imagine what that's going to do for you in a year. And this is money that's already coming in. So we talked a little bit and I gave you some tips and some industry benchmarks and statistics on the financial framework and the mindset shift and the revenue strategies that the most profitable practices are using. Not just someday, not every once in a while, but every single day, the most profitable practices are using these tips. The question is, are you going to continue keep operating and stuck in the weeds? Are you going to rise to your role as CEO that your practice actually needs by building these systems, these SOPs, doing these financial health checks? Because when you understand your metrics, when you lead with strategy, and when you finally start working on the business instead of in it, everything changes. You are then going to create a practice that serves your life, not one that drains it. I can't tell you how many practice owners come to me saying, MJ, I haven't taken a vacation in the last 10 years. I've owned this med spa. That's a huge red flag to me. They are working in the business, not on it. I want your company to serve you and to make you money and give you financial freedom and not one that is draining you. This is a moment for you to fully step into your power as a practice CEO. No more chaos, no more guesswork, clarity, control, and putting profit first. If you are not currently doing any of these financial health checks, please drop a comment in the chat and I will help guide you and I will teach you exactly where to start. I'll look at your P&L. We'll start going through your KPIs. Drop a comment in the chat and let's get started right away because revenue that is not being assessed, financial health checks, is money going down the drain. I would love to take a moment to answer any questions that you have. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat and I would love to help. All right. Any questions?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, so with whom should I start this process? I have marketing and consulting with you guys. Should I just talk to both teams or?
Yeah, absolutely. Your consultant will be more than happy. She could do all of these things with you. So we can reach out to you and connect you with whoever your consultant is, and she'll start this with you ASAP.
Thank you.
No problem.
And
And
we got another question on Instagram. They want to know if they should allow their manager to be involved in like the P&Ls and basically the whole financial health check. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. My answer to that, 100% yes. I think a lot of times I see practice owners failing because they're keeping their metrics a little bit too close to them out of fear. They're living in a fear mindset. So they're not sharing KPIs, the P&L information with their manager. And that is a huge mistake. I hear practice owners all the time tell me, MJ, I don't want my practice owner to know how much is coming in because then she's going to ask me for a raise. What I can tell you, if you have the right practice manager in your seat, they are going to understand that that is not all profit. There's expenses. That's not all going into your bank account. But what I'll tell you is the metrics matter to them because they are the ones driving and pushing forward, holding the team accountable to KPIs. If they do not have access to the P&L and to the KPIs and those metrics, they're flying blind. They can't set goals if they aren't aware of where their team is currently operating. And a good practice manager, you should be building up, and they should be able to identify these profit leaks way before you do. If you give them access to the KPI tracker and your P&L, they should be able to tell you, oh, we're overspending in this area, or we can cut back in our inventory order and do exactly what I just told you, like I did for my client, where I saved her $64,000. So that's a great question. And I hear that question a lot from practice owners. I do not want you to operate with a fear mindset and keep data and your P&L from your practice manager. You're doing your practice a disservice. Don't hire someone that you don't trust. Make sure that you train them to understand. Obviously, all of that is not going into your bank account. You have expenses, whatever those might be. So it's important for them to understand what is coming in so that way they can help set realistic goals for your team. That's a great question. Okay, what are things I shouldn't share in terms of finance with the manager? I think metrics matter and transparency in those is vital. So I wouldn't say, honestly, there should be anything that you don't share with your practice manager. If you feel like there are things that you shouldn't be sharing, it's because there's no trust there. And I think you need to reevaluate who you have in that seat, because a good practice manager is going to take a six-figure practice to a seven-figure practice. She's the one that's boots on the ground every single day. So to be honest with you, I would share all the information with her. Metrics matter. I can't stress that enough. And if she's your driving force and if she's the one setting goals for your team, we don't want to have her flying blind. That's a great question. Any other questions?
We did get another question on Instagram. So they're asking, like they don't even know what KPIs are, right? So can you break down some of the basics really quickly and then maybe provide some resources for where they could start to, improve their financial literacy?
Yeah, great question. So KPIs, what does that stand for? That is key performance indicators. So I like to track KPIs, these key performance indicators for the practice as a whole, but it's also imperative to be tracking these KPIs for your individual providers and your front desk. Even if they're not service providers and you don't feel like they're revenue drivers, they play a major role. So when you're looking at individual providers and the practice as a whole, you at bare minimum need to be looking at conversion rate, rebooking rate, utilization rate. So utilization rate is for any given amount of time that they're open for service, what percent are they actually utilized? Revenue per patient. So on average, how much is their revenue per patient? Their total revenue. How much did they generate for you that month in general? And then break it down from retail revenue, service revenue by injectable, Botox, any neurotoxin, filler, biostimulators. It should be really granular information because with that, you can kind of see where they're underperforming. So I gave you that example of that practice manager when we were looking, or that practice owner, when we were looking at her KPIs, her provider was over 90% utilized. That means she is booked. She's back to back. But her revenue per patient was very, very, very low, especially when we took a look at her schedule and she's doing high ticket items. She was basically filled with, every once in a while she'd have Botox, but it was really filler and biostimulators. So what that tells me is she's not upselling. She's not giving the right recommendations for how many syringes. She's just kind of doing one-offs. And we were able to identify that through KPIs. So I always like to tell my clients, your KPIs are going to paint the best story of your practice for me. And that's exactly what we did with that patient. So if you have any other questions about what KPIs are or how to start, I would be happy to help. All right, I went a little bit over on time, so thank you so much for joining today. Catch us every single Wednesday, same time, same place, live every week. Thank you so much. And for anyone that commented financial health check, we will be in touch with you. Thank you.
Thanks, MJ. Great job.